You subsequently moved out of Robert Oswald's house to an apartment on West 7th Street in Fort Worth?
Well, I don't remember the address, but you do know about
yeah.
more than I do.
And did Lee's mother live with you at that time?
I do believe after Robert will move with his mother.
Did you have any visitors when you lived in this apartment with his mother?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
Did Lee Oswald's what was his personality like upon getting back to the United States, comparing it with as you knew him in the Soviet Union?
Well, he had a hard time to find a job at the beginning, and little by little he became a little bit more sour.
Mr. Chairman, could we break for 5 minutes, please?
The chairman has just gavelled this session back to order.
Mrs. Porter, we left off, the last question I asked you was, did you notice any changes in personality, just a change in Lee, once you got back in the United States, comparing him as how you knew him in the Soviet Union?
Well, little by little he became gloomier.
Gloomier?
More disillusioned.
And do you know why?
At the time I assumed because it was lack of holding on a job or find a job that he liked to do. It seemed to me that he was, with the time passing, he was dissatisfied with the job that he was holding.
He got a job in Fort Worth, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And where was that job?
I do not really know the name of the firm or that he worked for.
What was he doing?
It was some kind of mechanical job.
It was within walking distance of where you lived?
I think so.
Did he ever discuss this job with you?
Only thing he said that he did not like it very much.
Did not like it?
Yes.
During this time when you lived in Fort Worth, did you, or any time for that matter, within the first month or so after you got back from the Soviet Union, did you ever have occasion to meet any of Lee's friends from Texas?
No, we met few Russian people, and they were our friends at the time we lived there.
How about non-Russian people?
No.
Did Lee ever talk about friends or associates that he had in Texas before he went to Russia?
No.
Never mentioned any?
Not to my knowledge right now. I don't recall any names or faces.
Did you ever have visitors at your apartment on West 7th Street? The one that you shared with Marguerite?
Marguerite? No.
No, you had no visitors to the apartment?
I don't recall any visitors.
Did Lee read books often?
Yes.
Did he read a lot when he was in the Soviet Union?
Yes.
What kind of books did he read there?
Novels mostly.
What kind of novels?
What you call maybe as a classical novels, some Russian classic writers.
The novels or the books that he read in the Soviet Union, were they Russian?
They were in Russian language, yes.
How about when he returned to Texas? Did he continue his interest in reading?
Yes.
What kind of books was he reading when he returned?
Oh, well, he has access to the library, and whatever books he brought, they were in English language, so I don't know the title of them, but he brought some Russian books for me to read, too.
Did he read any books of a political nature?
If he did, I do not know about.
Did Oswald talk about politics very much during this time in Fort Worth?
Lee really did not discuss politics with me. If I ever heard some conversation with somebody else, just bits and pieces, I have to paste them in my memories right now to give you the tone of the conversation.
Who did he talk politics with? You mentioned earlier George de Mohrenschildt.
Mainly with George. About latest events in the newspaper, something like that. That matter.
Up to this time, and we're only talking up to this time in Fort Worth, on your early arrival, had you ever heard Lee ever mention in discussion, or did you ever overhear him talking with anyone about assassination as a political act?
No.
You ever hear him talk at all about assassination up to this point?
No.
What was Lee's relationship with the the Russian group of individuals in the Dallas-Fort Worth area? What was Lee's relationship with them?
It seemed to me at the beginning he was quite eager to meet Russian people living in Fort Worth or in Dallas. But little by little, he felt like withdraw from it. He felt like they have too much influence on me, or I don't think that he felt very comfortable around.
Was it your understanding that he knew any of these individuals before he went to the Soviet Union?
No, I don't think he knew them before.
But he met them after he returned?
Yes.
Mrs. Porter, you testified earlier that when in Russia, you recall that Lee owned a rifle or some kind of weapon.
Yes.
Do you remember whether it was a rifle or as opposed to a shotgun?
What's the difference between shotguns? Is it size or what?
The different kind of bullet or projectile that comes out. Do you know the difference between a shotgun and a rifle?
No.
Okay. When do you first recall seeing Lee with a rifle in the United States?
I cannot pinpoint exact month or data of any kind.
Where did you first see it?
I do not remember where or when, but I can say that Lee did have a rifle during life in the United States.
Do you know whether it was the same rifle that he had in the Soviet Union?
Well, logically it cannot be, because you cannot go through the customs without declaring on the rifle. I would not really know.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, let the record reflect that Mrs. Porter was unable to identify Lee Harvey Oswald's rifle, which was marked CE-139 before the Warren Commission. She was unable to identify it in 1964 when she testified before the Warren Commission, and consequently, we will not show it to her today, since such a showing would serve no useful purpose.
Thank you.
When you first saw the rifle in the United States, did you ask him what it was for?
I don't remember what I asked him about. I know I wasn't pleased of having a rifle in the house.
What did he say about it?
Well, in the matter of, that's a manly thing to like or something like that. Most men do like to hunt or do like to play with the rifle.
Do you recall seeing him taking it out frequently from wherever he kept it, either to handle it or to clean it, to look at it, do whatever?
Yes, I did see him cleaning the rifle. It's true.
How often?
Maybe once a week.
And now, Where did he keep this rifle?
In his closet.
Now, when you refer to the closet, what apartment are you referring to? At what apartment are we talking about?
Well, I do not recall any apartment, but maybe one in Dallas.
The one on Neely Street?
Neely Street, yes.
And you say he kept it in the closet?
Yes, because in New Orleans he had the rifle, the same rifle as him, and he kept in the closet there too, so every apartment has a closet.
Did you notice any change in his personality after he obtained this rifle?
Well, he liked to be alone by himself. Quite often that was a part of his personality. So that wasn't really anything new, but his behavior pattern toward me changed. He was very annoyed by me and seemed like I felt out of place.
Did you ever see him, you said that you've seen him taking it out and cleaning it. Did you ever see him while he was in the apartment pick up the rifle and to aim it like he would be practicing shooting?
He would do that in New Orleans in the apartment at the screen porch. Mm-hmm. He would sit there in the dark with it.
So he would sit in a chair and he would bring it up to his shoulder and...
I don't know what he was sitting on, but I knew it was in front of his face or whatever.
Do you recall when you first saw this rifle in Texas, whether it had a scope on it?
I would not remember that at all.
Do you know what a scope is?
Well, I learned late, since all this happened, what the scope is.
Okay.
But I don't know that much about rifles.
Well,
nothing at all. No.
Thinking back, can you recall whether the rifle had a scope on it? It would be attached to the rifle. Can you recall?
No, I don't.
When did you learn the difference between rifles with and without scopes?
I really did not learn the difference. I just know what the scope more or less is right now.
Okay.
That it's attachment that make it target more visible.
But did you know then what a scope was?
No.
Would it be your testimony that, well, is it your testimony? Strike that. Did Oswald keep ammunition, cartridges, around the apartment?
Yeah, he kept rifle and I guess ammunition, what you call it, all together, and I wasn't fascinated by rifles, so I never took any interest to look at it or see what it looks like. So I just simply ignore it most of the time.
Do you recall when he had these times when he had the rifle out, whether you say in New Orleans he would sit on the screen porch?
Yes.
And we're referring to the Magazine Street apartment. Do you remember what he would do? I mean, you say you don't know whether he was sitting. Is that your testimony?
Well, it was usually after dark. So if I go over there and, just see that he's there and I come back in the apartment. So I just knew he was there with the rifle, and he always, most of the time he said, just leave me alone, That's what I'll do.
Can you recall overhearing the sound of Lee handling the rifle? In other words, do you recall that when he would be sitting on the porch, do you recall loud sounds of what would be moving the bolt, where the action on the rifle was?
Well, I do not recall right now.
If you think about it for a minute, can you recall that kind of sound, the sound of metal on metal, sort of a clacking sound?
No, I can't remember right now.
Do you ever see him move the action of the rifle?
I told you I did not pay attention, what he was doing over there that much, to give you the descriptions if he changed the positions or was it any sounds, because I wasn't listening for.
Do you know, or do you remember any time when he would handle the rifle and when it seemed like he would be shooting at something, an imaginary object,
No, I
and
cannot.
pulling the trigger?
No, I cannot tell you that. It seems to me that most of the time he picked up the time to be with his rifle when I was busy with something else. At the time I did not pay any attention. If it was deliberate or not, I do not know.
Did you ever handle the rifle? Did you ever hold it?
Well, I might touch it sometime to move the place to place if you clean the closet.
Did you ask him where he obtained this rifle?
No, I didn't.
Did he ever take it outside the apartment to practice with it, to do anything with it?
Yes, he did.
And what did he do?
He will, like, before it gets very dark outside, he will leave apartment dressed with a dark raincoat, even though it was a hot summer night, pretty hot weather anyway. And he'll be wearing this, and he will be hiding the rifle underneath his raincoat. And he said he's gonna do target practice or something like that.
And how long, this was one occasion you're talking about with the raincoat.
That's several occasions, maybe more than one.
Did the same thing on several occasions, put the rifle,
Yes.
put the raincoat on and then the rifle under the raincoat?
Yes,
And how long would he be gone?
a few hours.
And what did he say as he was going out to do this? Did he have any specific comment? Did he tell you any reason?
Well, he said that it's a practice range somewhere, apparently. That's the purpose of him taking a rifle in order to practice.
Okay, Mrs. Porter, let me direct your attention to the approximately April 10th, 1963. April 10th is the day that Lee Harvey Oswald allegedly shot at General Edwin Walker in Dallas. But before I get to that specific question, let me ask you one further one just in general about the rifle. And that is, you say on occasion he went out to practice wearing the raincoat. Do you know how he got to the area that he was going to practice shooting the rifle?
He told me by the bus. And, so I thought it was kind of a little, would be suspicious for the people in the bus to see him wearing a raincoat, you know. But that's what he told me, that he took a bus.
When he put this raincoat on over and had the rifle underneath, could you see this rifle? Could you see it?
The raincoat was quite long.
Below the knee? Did it come below the knee?
You could not see that it was a rifle. You would not spot it.
Now, going back to April 10th, approximately, in the week preceding, before this incident, before the General Walker shooting, did you notice any change in Oswald's personality during that time? How was he acting?
Well, I cannot compare right now, you know, because it was a long time ago, but his personality constantly was changing to the worse, really. He became more withdrawn, more hostile toward me, maybe more short-tempered.
But during the week preceding April 10th,
Well, he will spend lots of time alone in this closet that he converted in a little kind of office, and he will shut the door and will do some more writing of someone. And he asked me not to disturb him.
directing your attention to that day, April 10th, 1963. Would you tell us what happened?
Well, I cannot remember, the timing and all the very vivid details of the day. I just can state it that that particular night he did not come home till very late. And when he did not come at home at regular time, I was worried about him, so I found a note addressed to me, what to do in case if he did not come home. Of course, I was petrified and nobody I can turn to. But then later that night, when he came home, I asked him to explain. He was out of breath and he was pale, and I asked him to explain this note, and he said that I just shot General Walker.
The sound you're hearing in the background is a regular test of the sirens here at the Capitol.
So I was
nothing to worry about.
Very upset and enraged about that, and we had an argument over.
Just a second, Mrs. Porter. Let's wait till the...
And we're waiting for the noise to subside to continue the questioning. The crisis seems to have passed. We're now just waiting for counsel to resume.
Just 1 minute, please.
He's consulting with one of the other members of the committee staff.
Yes. Mrs. Porter, if you could speak up as best you can, so
Okay.
we can hear you. All right, before the siren, you were saying, let me ask you the question so you could repeat the answer. What happened when Lee came home on the night of April 10th, 1963?
He was very pale, as I said, and he was out of breath. And I asked him to explain about the note that he left for me, and asked him what happened, and he said that he just tried to shoot General Walker. Asked him who General Walker was. How dare you to go and claim somebody's life? And he said, well, what would you say if somebody got rid of Hitler at the right time? So if you don't know about General Walker, how can you speak up on his behalf? Because he told me that he wasn't just a minute for his so he was something equal to he called him a fascist. That's what his description.
Did he turn on the television? Did he try to listen?
He did not have television. He turned on radio later on, listening to the news, and it wasn't nothing else.
How was it? You say he was pale.
Yes.
Was he? Did he appear nervous or distraught?
I don't know what distraught means.
Well, other than being pale in color, did he have any other characteristics, physical characteristics? Did he seem to be shaking or extremely nervous?
Yes, he was extremely nervous. Yes. Then when he heard in the news that General Walker wasn't killed, he was kind of angry that he missed it.
Now, you say he returned late that evening. Do you recall seeing him go out that morning, the morning of April 10th?
I don't remember. I probably have.
But it's your testimony he did not come home after work before going out to try to shoot General Walker.
I really do not remember right now. He didn't come from work, or maybe he left and didn't come back late.
Well, do you recall seeing him leave the apartment with the rifle around April 10th?
I don't remember, I'm sorry.
WFCR Amherst.
About what time did he get back?
I don't remember the time.
Well, was it
Quite
early?
late.
Pardon?
Pardon me?
Was it early in the evening? Late in the evening?
I assume it was very late in the evening.
Okay. Do you recall, did he come in with the rifle?
No.
You specifically remember he did not have it?
Well, as I recall right now, I think a few days later, or the next day or 2 days later, he went and brought the rifle back in the house.
How did he bring it back? How did he carry it?
Well, the same way he was taking it out with the raincoat on.
With the raincoat?
Yeah.
Is this the way he would normally take the rifle out of the Neely Street apartment? Under the raincoat?
When he went, as he said, practice, target practice?
Yeah.
That usually was the procedure.
But concerning the General Walker incident, do you remember the night he came, that night when he came in pale? And did he come in, did he have the raincoat on?
I don't remember, but as I recall right now, I think that he went and he hidden the rifle somewhere else.
He told you this?
This is what I try to remember right now. I think that's what it was.
Did he seem pleased when he got home?
Pleased with what?
Pleased with what he had done?
No, he was just nervous and he was eager to listen to the news. But then he was disappointed.
Excuse me just a second.
Committee counsel is...
Mrs. Porter, would you like a straight back chair?
No, that's fine. Just all right.
He's just
Now,
waiting to...
you mentioned a note. He left you a note.
Yeah.
Okay. Where was this note left?
I don't remember right now, but I think it could be in the closet on the table there.
I'm sorry?
Maybe it's in the closet and above his shelves or something like that.
You found this note before he returned? Did you find it before he returned?
I think so.
Okay. And what did it say?
It's what for me to do in case if he did not come back home.
And what specifically did it say?
Well, it was a key to the mailbox, post office mailbox, I think. I really don't remember what the note exactly said right now.
Was it written in his handwriting?
Yes.
And what did you do with the note when he returned home?
I don't remember.
Is that note in existence now?
I don't know.
Did Lee have a notebook, a book that he used to keep writings in regarding General Walker?
I think so.
What do you remember about it?
Well, at the time when he was spending lots of time alone in the closet, I thought that he's writing, I don't know, whatever it was. But I learned about that was something to do with General Walker. I learned about that later.
How did you learn about it?
I don't remember.
Did he tell you?
Could have been.
Well, you learned about it soon after the Walker incident? You learned about the notebook shortly after the Walker incident?
Probably.
Okay. So who else would be in a position to tell you what the notebook contained?
You will, if you read, you probably have access to it.
No, I mean at that time.
Only Lee, yes.
Okay. Do you recall if that notebook contained photographs?
I think so.
What were those photographs depicting?
Well, I remember it now. It looked like some kind of house or a road or something like that, of that nature. And if I asked him what it was, he said that's General Walker's house.
And were these photographs attached to a piece of paper? I mean, a page of the notebook itself?
I don't remember right now.
What happened to that notebook?
I don't know.
Well, do you recall if Lee ever did anything?
By now or
No, then. What happened then? Did Lee do anything to the notebook?
Well, it's a possibility that maybe it was destroyed.
Just 1 second.
Committee counsel is conferring with other staff members, going over some documents, trying to figure out, I suppose, what they should ask about next. Mrs. Oswald, now Mrs. Porter, originally denied to the Warren Commission that she knew about the Walker incident. Didn't she, Joe Volz?
She certainly did, and now she's having memory problems. She says she doesn't remember what was in the note, but in the past she did remember what was in the note.
Mrs. Porter, we're speaking now of the notebook that Lee kept on the General Walker shooting.
Okay.
And you testified that he brought the rifle home a number of days after the incident?
Yes.
Okay. And you were aware of this notebook that he kept?
Well, I try to recall, and on my memory, how these things did happen. And by now, I maybe assume some things.
Mm-hmm.
So really, I just know as a fact that Lee did try to attend on General Walker. He told me about that, and that's the fact. Details of it I do not remember. I don't want to mislead you different directions.
But do you recall Lee ever burning the pages of this notebook in the bathroom?
Well, afterwards, of course, I was petrified for what he did. I was afraid that I was waiting for the police to knock on our door any minute. So I probably, even myself, would be eager to destroy any evidence that led to arrest of me.
Well, do you remember him destroying this notebook?
I do not remember right now.
Did you contact, what was your reaction when he told you that he had attempted to shoot an individual with his rifle?
Well, all of a sudden I realized that it wasn't just a manly hobby of possessing a rifle. He's capable of killing somebody with it. I was very disappointed to discover that trait of characteristic in my husband. I really did not have very much choice. I had no place to go. I wasn't approve of his actions, no.
Did you tell any of your friends at the time what had happened about it?
No.
How about the police? Did you tell the police?
Well, I should have, but I didn't.
Why didn't you?
Well, I guess whatever sense of loyalty was in me, I haven't done it. So.
Over the weeks...
And I couldn't speak English anyway.
You could not speak English at the time?
No.
Over the weeks after the Walker incident, did Lee ever express any views, any confident views that he attempted to do something and did not get caught? In other words, did he ever say anything that the authorities just couldn't catch him, that he was too smart, something to that effect?
Well, he made kind of joking remark about after listening to the news that everybody kept looking for the car, and he said that Americans did not realize some people do walk, you know. So he said he just ran he just walked away or ran away from the scene.
Did he, over the following days and weeks, did he often look in the newspaper to see for stories regarding this?
I think so. We bought newspaper every day anyway. So.
How often did he comment? Did he talk to you about this Walker shooting afterwards?
Pardon me, would you please repeat the question?
Did he often talk about it afterwards? What he had done, what he had tried to do?
Well, occasionally, not that much. He knew that I wasn't a poet and I didn't want to talk about or hear about.
Did he appear, when he talked to you, when he mentioned it to you, to be boasting, to be proud of what he had done?
Well, I think he was kind of pleased with himself, with the clever fellow he was, and got away with it.
Did he make any comments that he was going to do it again? To walk?
Well, I begged him not to try it again, just leave it as it is, and lucky that there's nothing bad happened to any of them.
And what did he say when you begged him not to do it?
Well, he gave his promise that he would not do it again.
In the weeks leading up to the Walker shooting, can you recall any incidents that were out of the ordinary as far as Lee's behavior toward you? And
well, I don't recall right now.
do you remember whether he met with any individuals? Did he tell you he was going out to meet with anyone?
No, he didn't.
Would you tell us what happened when you and Lee first met with George de Mohrenschildt after the Walker incident?
Well, I heard George de Mohrenschildt making a joking remark about how did you miss that, Lee, you know. So I look at Lee and I thought, gosh, did he tell him that? And he looked at me because he thought that I was, that I told him. So as I recall right now, I don't know how George found out or he guessed or he just make joke about it.
Do you know whether there must have been some reason for de Mohrenschildt to guess at it, unless he was told? Do you recall, in reflection on any of the conversations that they had, whether you heard the name Walker being mentioned?
I do not recall the details right now, so I cannot say who said, what after what.
What did Lee say? Did he tell you that he told George de Mohrenschildt?
Well, I do not remember his answer.
Did you tell George de Mohrenschildt about the Walker incident?
I don't think so.
Would it have been likely that you might have or would have?
Well, I was very ashamed of the things that happened. That was something that I don't think I would feel like discussing with someone.
Would George de Mohrenschildt been a person, though, that you might have discussed it with?
I don't think so. I was very embarrassed of Lee trying to do something like that, so I don't remember what I did then.
Mrs. Porter, you moved to Dallas in the fall of 1962 to the Neely Street address?
Probably that's correct.
Do you recall, this was the time of the Cuban Missile Crisis in late October 1962. Can you recall whether, and you stated that you didn't have a television at the time.
No.
Do you remember during this time period whether Lee was concerned with the Cuban Missile Crisis?
Yes, he was concerned and I was concerned too because I would be caught in a position, I don't know, in a war between America and Cuba, where would I belong, you know what I mean? I was afraid of war.
What was Lee's view?
I really don't remember what he said about it.
What did he say about Cuba at the time? Did he express any opinions about what the United States was doing regarding Cuba?
Well, he did not express that to me, and at least not often. that I can recall. But I know that he was fond of Cuba and Fidel Castro.
Can you recall do you remember him listening on the radio to any speeches by President Kennedy during this time period?
Well, since we didn't have television, we had radio, he did listen to news, yes.
Can you recall specifically Lee listening to Kennedy on the radio, speaking about the Cuban Missile Crisis?
Well, I did not understand English well enough. I just could spot President Kennedy's voice, maybe, but I did not know what he was talking about. And Lee didn't make very many comments, so not the one that I remember.
Can you recall any comments that he made about Kennedy at that time?
Nothing bad.
Pardon?
Nothing that bad that I would remember then.
When you were living at the Neely Street address, excuse me, just a second. Mrs. Porter, when you were living at the Neely Street address, which was 214 Neely Street, Dallas, did you have any visitors?
At Neely Street? Yes, I did have Joyce Monch did come over quite often, and some Russian people.
Did you ever have visits by people unknown to yourself, but only known to your husband?
No.
During this time at Neely Street, was his personality changing at all? I think you testified before that his personality, his demeanor and his actions toward you.
Yes, that's correct.
Well, it got worse, progressively worse after coming here to the United States?
Yes, and well, it looked like he kept me just mostly in the house. He didn't want me to associate with anybody, and we had lots of arguments in that period. Yes.
At this time, in the spring of '63, was he demonstrating to you any additional tendencies toward violence? Other than the Walker shooting, was he physically abusive toward you?
Well, right now in my mind, I really know, but I forgot which apartment was in Neely Street and which one was on another street. You know, so right now I'm thinking about the apartment before the Walker. Mm-hmm. So gradually his behavior did worsen.
Okay, Mr. Chairman? Yes. At this time, it would be appropriate to take a brief recess until the other members get back, as we have a number of exhibits that we are going to show to Mrs. Porter.
All right, we will recess for 10 minutes.
That's the second bit. Mrs. Porter, we've got two exhibits to show you that the clerk would obtain from the representatives of the National Archives. We have two photographs to show you. They're Warren Commission exhibits CE 133A and B, which have been given JFK numbers F378 and 379. If the clerk would please hand them to you. And also, if we could now have, for display purposes, JFK exhibit F179, which is a blow-up of the two photographs placed in front of you.
I suspect these are going to be, yes, they are, the photographs of Lee Harvey Oswald, the two photographs holding a rifle.
Do you recognize the photographs placed in front of you?
Yes, I do.
And how do you recognize them?
That's the photograph that I made of Lee on his persistent request of taking a picture of him dressed like that with rifle.
Tell us, please, what happened. This was at the Neely Street address. What happened on this occasion when Lee asked you to take those photographs?
Well, first of all, I refused to take picture because I did not know how to operate camera. And he told me that he insists that I'll take it, and he said he'll show me how if I just push the button. So I took one picture, and I think, and then maybe he changed the pose, I don't recall. Maybe I took two pictures. But I was very annoyed by all the incidents, so.
Okay,
That was over
Mrs.
with.
Porter, I'd like you to take a look at Committee Exhibit F381, which and the clerk would obtain from the archives representatives. It's an Imperial Reflex camera. It has a Warren Commission number, but I don't have it in front of me. 750, CE 750. Does that camera look familiar, Mrs. Porter?
I've seen this camera when you showed me the last time.
Yeah.
But that's not, I cannot identify as it belongs to me.
Okay. What did he say to you regarding taking these photographs? How did he approach you?
Well, he told me that he wants me to take a picture of him, and I said I did not know how. Then when he came dressed with all this thing, I was making remarks like it's a funny way to take a picture and why you want to do it. And he looks like he has some kind of newspaper in his hand.
Now, if you look at the photograph and as is displayed on the exhibit, he's holding a rifle, and he's got a handgun in a holster attached to his belt. Had you seen the handgun before? Before you took the photograph?
I don't think so. So anyway, I do not recall.
Well, do you recall if this was the first time when you were taking the photograph that you had seen him, or that you had known that he owned both a rifle and a handgun?
It's possible.
Did Lee appear to be nervous at all when you took the photograph?
No, he was just angry with me because I refused to, I was making fun of him.
Did you use a tripod at all?
Did I use what?
A tripod, which is, in other words, was the camera attached to a stand?
No.
Okay. You held it in your hands?
Yes.
Okay. Was anyone else around when you took the photograph?
It was quite embarrassing the way he was dressed, so I assume it was a weekend or maybe Sunday, because I recall that neighbors were gone. And I was grateful for that, yes.
He waited for that?
No, I was grateful for that.
Oh, you were grateful, I'm sorry. How long did he stay outside when you were taking these photographs?
Not very long.
Before the session, before you started taking these photographs, what was he doing?
Well, he just showed me which button to push, and, you know.
No, what I meant was, what was he doing? What was he doing in the house?
I was busy doing something. Then he called me outside, and he wanted me to do this picture taking.
Mm-hmm. Do you know, after you finished taking the photographs, what happened?
Well, I went back to my whatever I was doing.
And what did he do?
I guess change his clothes or put all his ammunition back away somewhere.
You took these photographs in March of 1963, is that correct?
I don't recall the date, but it would look like a sprinter.
Did he after the photo session was over, did he put the rifle and the handgun away?
He probably did.
Can you recall, did he go out afterwards?
No, I don't remember.
Now, this was in March, so it would have been prior to the General Walker incident. When he had these guns and the rifle in his hand and you were taking the photograph, did he say anything to you about shooting anyone, political assassination, whatever?
No.
No comments at all like that?
No.
Now, Mrs. Porter, can you recall how many photographs you took? How many poses? what we have here are two poses. Can you recall whether you took any others?
No, I don't.
You don't recall?
I don't recall.
Okay, Mrs. Porter, I'm now going to show you a photograph which was not seen by the Warren Commission. For continuity purposes, this committee has labeled it 133-C. We have up there A and B. We call it 133C. It has no relation to the Warren Commission because they did not see it. We've also marked it as an exhibit, JFK Exhibit F380. If the clerk would please hand Mrs. Porter Committee Exhibit F380, and if we could have displayed a photographic enlargement, JFK F180. Have you had a chance to look at that and compare it with the other two?
Pardon me?
Yes. Have you had a chance to look at it and compare?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that photograph before?
Well, I've seen it in newspapers and recently watching news. I've seen it on television as well.
Okay. So as you look in front of you, you've got three photographs, each one with a slightly different pose.
Well, I never compared them before. Since you asked me, I have to compare.
As you'll see, A has him holding the gun, holding the rifle in his right hand, the left hand. B, the rifle in the right hand, and then C, in the left hand again, slightly to the front. So with these, to refresh your memory, can you say that? Can you recall if you took any additional pictures?
No, I cannot remember how many exactly. Well, to me, it looks like all of them. It looks like Lee.
That's right. No, we're not.
That's the only thing I can say, but I do not remember how many pictures I was taking.
But since we have three in front of you, we know now that you at least took three, correct? Three different occasions.
I mean, it was one occasion, but
right.
I could take 3 pictures. I could
right.
take 2 pictures.
Okay.
I cannot be definite about how many.
Let me ask you if you can remember, was there a pose? Did Lee pose holding the rifle over his head in two hands?
I don't remember that at all. Okay. Mrs. Porter, I want to show you now 2 additional photographs labeled JFK Exhibit F. It's one photograph with two numbers. F183 is the face of the photograph depicting Lee Oswald, and F84 is the back, which has some writing on it. If the clerk would please hand this to Mrs. Porter, and if we would, for demonstration purposes, display committee exhibits F382 and 383. Mrs. Porter, if you would direct your attention to the reverse side, that's where my questions will be directed. And the reverse side is displayed on the easel. Take it. Okay, if you had a chance to look at the reverse side, okay. Do you see the phrase that's written in the upper right hand? Excuse me, can I consult with my...
Sure, please. All right. Directing your attention to the phrase, which I've been told is Russian. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. In the upper right-hand corner of the photograph, on the back. Do you recognize the handwriting?
No, I don't. Well, that's what I was discussing with my lawyer. We tried to find out if that was written by me. I mean, as I told him that my handwriting does change a few times a day. I do not write same way, in the morning or maybe at night. So it's hard for me to claim even my own handwriting. But you have certain way of writing, habit of writing certain letters. So I know for sure that I do not write certain letter that way. So at first I thought it was maybe my handwriting, but when I started examining it, I know it's not.
Okay. Well, first of all, what does it say?
It's Hunter for fascist, ha ha ha.
Hunter of fascists?
Yes.
Ha ha ha. Now, if you look closely, there's a possibility that if you look, you'll see the handwriting, the dark handwriting. It appears that someone might have wrote over the original handwriting. You can see underneath.
I can see something right here that looks like had been erased and copied over.
Or possibly someone wrote over just to bring out the light handwriting underneath. But nevertheless, does any of that look like your handwriting?
Like mine?
Yeah.
No.
Well, do you recall ever writing such a phrase on that photograph?
No, but it will sound like me.
Sounds like you.
The phrase, yes. And at first, I thought it looked like my handwriting, but when I examine, I do not, like letter F, I do not print it that way, and T. No, I'm talking about Russian description of the English.
Okay. You're saying you don't print it that way now. How about in 19...
No, it wasn't habit, yes.
Okay. So it sounds like something you would have written, but you can't identify your handwriting.
When one letter right here that is scratched underneath, marked underneath, it's a sound in English like S and H, sha sound.
Mm-hmm.
That's not necessary to put this marking on it, but it's typical of some Russians too.
Well, is it typical of the way you would have written then in 1963?
Pardon me?
Is that peculiarity
well, that would be typical for Russians to write it, but at the same time, another letter.
One of the committee staff is talking to council about the possibility. Yes, I think she's going to go over and point out the letters.
Talking about.
It's the third letter in the second word. No, S, A, and then it's another one that looks like, yes.
She speaks Russian, so.
Oh, she does?
Yes.
And T, it's not necessary to put this mark underneath as well, but it's kind of habitual, not habitual, it's a habit of some Russians to do that. But this letter H, it's in the first word, after all, this is something like maybe a foreigner would try to write it, to copy Russian language.
Okay. Well, do you recall ever seeing this photograph with its writing on the back?
No.
And it's your testimony, you don't think that's your handwriting?
At first look, I thought it was, but then I started examining it. I don't think it is my handwriting.
All right. Now, if you'll look in the lower left-hand corner, it says, "To my friend George from Lee Oswald," and there's a date, 5, then Roman numeral 463. Do you recognize that handwriting?
No.
Does it look like Lee Harvey Oswald's handwriting?
Well, I did not have much opportunity to compare his English handwriting to this photograph. But I cannot claim it was his handwriting. I'm not expert in handwriting as far as the English go. Do you have any other documents to compare his handwriting in English with this one? I mean, that's up to experts.
Yes, I understand. Well, did you see his handwriting in English very often?
Not very often, but I've seen it. But it was many years ago. I do not remember what his handwriting, but it wasn't big or sturdy,
When he
wrote with a small letter.
When he wrote to you, if he wrote notes or whatever, did he write to you in Russian?
In Russian language, yes.
Okay. And how would he sign his name in Russian?
Alec.
Alec. So when you look at this handwriting on the photograph, is it your testimony that you're just not that familiar with his handwriting in English? I see. Have you ever seen this photograph before?
This particular photograph?
Yeah, the particular one with the writing on the back.
No.
Okay. Now, in the lower right-hand corner, it says copyright G. period D.E. and a capital M. Have you ever seen, well, what does that notation mean to you?
Which one?
Where it says copyright.
Well, I assume maybe it was for some kind of book publications and somebody have a right in this photograph, to claim it as a gift.
Have you ever seen that before?
No.
That particular notation? Mrs. Porter, regarding all of the photographs, the different poses that we've seen, the photos you took of Lee, did you ever destroy any of this photograph of this nature?
Well, it had been brought to my attention just recently. Apparently I did. I forgot completely about it, or somebody spoke about it. I think I did.
And how many did you destroy?
I don't remember.
When did you do that?
After Lee was arrested.
Did anyone tell you to do this?
I don't remember. I think I was just afraid that there will be more evidence against Lee, and could be it was my own.
How did you destroy the photograph?
Well, I had been told I burned it, so that's been.
Do you remember doing that?
Very vaguely.
Was anyone with you when you did it?
I don't remember.
Do you know how many copies Lee had made of this photograph?
No, I don't.
Do you know whether he had many duplicates made?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay. Do you know if Lee developed these by himself at his place of employment?
I think once he worked somewhere, it was possible to do it. At work, I believe. I really do not know if he developed himself or if he signed it for.
Mr. Chairman, at this time I'd like to move into the committee record exhibits F378, 379, 380, F179, F180, F183, 84, F382, F383, and F381.
Without objection, they may be entered into the record this.
Mrs. Porter, I just have three more questions and then for this line of questioning. And that is, let me direct your attention to April 1963, April 21st specifically. This was a date on which it's in Priscilla Johnson's book and elsewhere, it's been written that you were told by Lee Oswald that Richard Nixon was coming to visit Dallas.
Yes.
You recall that incident?
Yes.
Tell us what happened, please.
Well, after the Walker incident, when he gave me a promise that he'll never do it again, I seen him one day, I don't know the exact date, that he was putting his gun, not gun, this pistol or rifle or whatever. Anyway, he said he's leaving, but I knew he had the weapon with him, so I told him, where are you leaving? And he said, well, the Nixon is coming to town, so I'm just going to look. And I said, for that you don't need, why are you taking all this ammunition with you? Not ammunition, gun. And so we wound up having an argument over it, and we had a fight, and he did not go.
All right, now the book, Marina and Lee, states that you somehow you lured him into the bathroom and then slipped out and held him in there.
Yes.
Tell us how that happened.
Well, it was easier to remember details when you're working so many years ago in the book than it is right now.
Well, try if you could. How, at this time, he had the handgun on his person, and he was preparing to go out?
Yes, I guess.
And how did you get him into the bathroom?
Well, we wrestle, or whatever you call it. You do not, you try with the time passing by not to, it's easier to forget the bad things of your life that bring memories back, so I cannot describe you the fight that we have, in such a scrupulous details that you wanted me to.
But do you recall maneuvering him into the bathroom?
Yes.
Now, normally, was he stronger than you?
Oh, of course.
So how did you get him into the bathroom?
Well, first of all, I was very angry, and that maybe gave him more energy, and I was just determined that I'm going to keep him there, and maybe he gave in after a while. Maybe he was just trying to make me angry and see where he stands with me. If he really he was much stronger with me. If he really wanted to, he could overpower me, definitely.
I see. And then the book says that you, in other testimony, that you held him in, you held the door shut?
The door for a while, yes.
Did he try to pull the door open?
But not for very long, yes.
Did he appear to be pulling very hard?
Well, it was hard for me to hold on to it. I don't know if he tried his best, how much power he used.
But is it your testimony that, in your opinion, if he really had wanted to get out, he would have been able to?
I think so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have, Mrs. Porter. Mr. Chairman, I have no further questions at this point.
Thank you, Counsel. Chair recognizes the gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Pryor, for such time as he may consume.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Porter, I would like to turn now to your life with Lee Harvey Oswald in New Orleans. On April the 24th, 1963, Lee Harvey Oswald went to New Orleans, and you remained behind with Mrs. Ruth Payne in Dallas.
Yeah.
Why did he go to New Orleans at that time?
He had difficulty to handle a job right here, so he thought maybe he will have a better chance in New Orleans, and he did have relatives over there who might be able to help him to find a job.
Did the Walker shooting have anything to do with his moving to New Orleans?
I really don't know. I do not recall right now if that was the turning point, but at least I was glad that he decided to move to New Orleans so that the farther from General Walker, the better.
Had he ever discussed moving to New Orleans before the Walker shooting?
I don't remember, sir.
And I gather that you were glad that he was moving to New Orleans because you were concerned about his behavior after the Walker incident?
Yes.
Did he have any friends in New Orleans?
Only relative that he spoke of.
He didn't mention anyone else living there apart from his relatives?
No.
Where was the rifle when he moved to New Orleans alone?
Would you please repeat the question? Where was the rifle? Okay, he moved first, then he packed all the belongings to Mrs. Payne's station wagon, and I think we took him by the bus station, or he went on his own to bus station. So he left for New Orleans first, and all the belongings had been packed by Lee and left in Mrs. Payne's house.
WSCR
and bus to New Orleans, but he had packed his belongings, and those were sent later.
Usually during the moving, that was Lee always was doing that. He was the one who did all the packing and not me.
So that you and Mrs. Payne later brought all of the
Yes.
remaining luggage, including the rifle. You mentioned that when he first got the rifle, he thought, as I understood your testimony, that it was the manly thing to do, and I assume that you felt that that was natural for him to have a rifle at that time, but that after the Walker incident, you stated that you realized he was capable of killing someone with it. When he went to New Orleans by himself, and you were left in Dallas with Mrs. Payne, did it occur to you to dispose of the rifle or the pistol, to get rid of it, so that he could do no harm, further harm with it?
Not really, because by that time I was afraid of Lee. And most of the time I did not, I tried not to do something to antagonize him.
You were physically afraid of him at that time?
Okay, please continue.
And let me ask along that line, just before he went to New Orleans, what was his treatment of you?
Well, he was quite brutal sometimes toward me.
And there was family quarreling?
Quite constantly.
Was that a factor in his moving to New Orleans?
Excuse me?
Was that a possible reason that he moved to New Orleans, one of the reasons?
It was lots of factors involved, but I think main one was for him to look for another opportunity for a job.
What do you think he would have done if you had gotten rid of the rifle?
Well, he probably would have get rid of me.
Pardon me?
Well, but I cannot answer this question. I don't know what he would have done.
I understood you'd say he might have gotten rid of you if you got rid of the rifle. At this time, did he talk about returning to Russia, to the Soviet Union at all?
I think that came in the picture later on in New Orleans.
Pardon me?
I do believe it came later in New Orleans.
When you got to New Orleans and you were both settled in the Magazine Street apartment, did you have any visitors there?
I don't recall except one lady with children or husband. I don't remember how many of them. One family did come to visit us. They were friends of Ruth Payne.
They were not friends of Lee Harvey Oswald's?
No. They visited only once. They never kept in touch again.
We've asked you at various times what he said about President Kennedy or his family and other political figures. At this time in New Orleans, did he have anything to say about President Kennedy or his family?
Well, during the New Orleans period, Mrs. Kennedy was expecting a child, and he told me about that. And he was quite concerned about her health, and he informed me that she has few miscarriages before, and he was hoping that nothing will happen to this baby. Not miscarriages, I think he said the baby died.
Did he talk about the Soviet Union in this New Orleans period?
Yes, he did.
What were his comments about the Soviet Union?
He did not talk about Soviet Union in order to compare America and Soviet Union. When Soviet Union was discussed, it was in the case that he wants me to go back. He doesn't want me around anymore. He thought that or I go back, or we come back to, the Soviet Union.
He talked about you going back to the Soviet Union?
Well, at times it was me, and sometimes, it was that both of us.
Did he talk about Cuba during this period?
Well, he was engaged in some activities, I assume on the street, about this pamphlet, the Fair Play for Cuba.
Did he compare Cuba with the Soviet Union at this time?
Yes, he did.
And what was that comparison? Was it more favorable to one than the other?
Well, he acted like he had a choice between Soviet Union and Cuba, and he does prefer to go maybe and live in Cuba because that's something that he did not try.
During your stay in the Magazine Street apartment in New Orleans, was Lee ever gone for long periods of time? By that I mean, say, as much as 5 days and nights?
No.
Consecutively?
No, he spent only one night in jail once, not the only time that he wasn't present in the house at night.
And that's the only time he was gone overnight?
Yes.
Was he friendly with your neighbors there?
No.
Did he appear to have any friends at all in New Orleans?
No.
You mentioned his interest in Cuba. Could you tell us just a little bit more about that and about what he might have said about Fidel Castro and why he wanted to go there?
Well, I knew for a long time that Fidel Castro was his hero. He was a great admirer of him. So he was in some kind of revolutionary mood at that period of time. I mean, he thought that maybe he would be happy to work for Fidel Castro causes or something like that.
I would like to ask you about 3 names at this time, and ask you whether you or Lee knew either of these 3 people. First is Clay Shaw. Do you remember knowing Clay Shaw?
I did not know Clay Shaw ever till I had to testify for Mr. Garrison in New Orleans. And that's when I learned about, this name.
Do you know whether Lee knew Clay Shaw before the time of the Garrison trial?
I don't know about that. I never seen or heard the name.
Did you know Guy Bannister?
Who?
Guy Bannister.
No.
And you don't know whether or not Lee knew Guy Bannister either?
I don't know, but I never heard that name either.
Do you recall ever going to Guy Bannister's office in New Orleans with Lee?
No, I don't. For what purpose?
You have no recollection of going with him? Do you know David Ferrie? F-E-R-R-I-E? Does that name refresh your recollection at all?
Well, somehow the name sounds familiar right now, but I don't know where I heard it before. I cannot put the face on the name.
You have no recollection of meeting him or seeing him?
No.
Did you meet Dorothy and Dutch Murrett, M-U-R-R-E-T, who I believe were Lee's aunt and uncle?
What is the first name you said?
Dorothy and Dutch, D-U-T-Z, I believe is his name. Dorothy and Dutch Murrett.
I remember Aunt Lillian that lived in New Orleans. Is that the same person?
Would you recall meeting Lee's aunt and uncle in New Orleans?
Yes. And her name was Lillian. And I forgot her husband's name.
Did Lee's aunt and uncle ever mention the name Nofio Pecora in any conversation that you or Lee may have had with them?
Well, I did not speak English at that time yet.
You don't
I never
recognize
heard that name. No.
that name. Do you recognize the name in any conversation that Lee's aunt and uncle had of Carlos Marcelo?
No, I never heard the name.
You've never heard that name?
Can I add something? If him and his uncle were talking and I wouldn't be present in the room, I cannot be, I cannot say that they did not talk about, but I never heard this name.
When he was in New Orleans, it's known that Lee made an effort to join an anti-Castro Cuban group, that he met with a man named Carlos Branguier, if I pronounce it properly, and that he was arrested in a scuffle later on with Branguier when Lee was passing out pro-Castro literature. In other words, he appeared to be working for both sides in New Orleans, the anti-Castro and the pro-Castro. That's the background for why I ask you this question. And that is, was Lee a true communist?
No, he wasn't.
Could you explain that a little more? Do you believe he was sincere in his beliefs?
No, I don't. Like newspapers reporters call him Marxist or communist. He was neither of those. He maybe was so-called self-proclaimed Marxist because there happened to be maybe he read the book and maybe was agree with Karl Marx, some of the theories. But as far as the belonging to the party or something like that, that's not so.
You're saying that he was a self-proclaimed Marxist, and that, as I understand it, that he had difficulty working with any
He did not call himself
party.
that I am Marxist or I believe in that kind of ideas.
Do you believe he was on the pro-Castro or the anti-Castro side?
Well, at the time, you mentioned this right now, I always thought that he was a pro-Cuban, not anti, or pro-Castro.
Didn't he generally remain true to his views about communism, the views he held when he first went to Russia?
Would you please repeat the question? I did not understand it very clearly.
Well, I think it might be a confusing question. Did he continue to take communist or socialist newspapers and literature throughout his life in this country?
I don't know.
Did you notice any change in his attitude toward the Soviet Union at this time?
No, I don't recall that.
Where did he work in New Orleans?
For some coffee company.
Was that the Riley Coffee Company?
It could be.
Did he talk to you about this job?
No, not very much.
Did he always come home on time? You mentioned that he was never away overnight except for one occasion.
Yeah, he was very punctual.
How did he get home? Did anyone drop him off, or did he come home on the bus?
I think by the bus.
Where did he keep his rifle in New Orleans?
And one of the closets as well.
You mentioned that he would, on several occasions, would put on his black raincoat and take it out to practice.
That was in Dallas period.
Oh, that was in the
That
Dallas
was in
period.
Dallas.
Did he do that in New Orleans?
I don't recall him doing that in New Orleans.
Do you recall when he first mentioned Cuba?
No, I don't, sir.
Had he mentioned it before he went to New Orleans? Or was this something that he became interested in New Orleans?
I think in New Orleans the word Cuba came up much more often than in Dallas period.
He distributed the Fair Play for Cuba Committee literature. Did he talk about distributing that literature with you?
Well, he always brought his pamphlets home, and I was kind of pleased that the papers weren't as bad occupation as playing with the rifle. So I couldn't see any harms in that.
He used the name, I believe, Hidell, Hidell, at this time. Did you write the name Hidell on any of the literature for him?
Well, he asked me to put some signature with the name like that, and I make joking remark about, is that stands for Fidel? You know, is that the sound association, more or less?
Did he agree that it was a variation on the name Fidel?
Well, he kind of just had a smile on it, you know.
Was that the first that anybody mentioned that Hidell was a variation on Fidel on that occasion? In other words, did anyone tell you about that before that occasion?
No.
Mr. Chairman, I think I have no further questions on this aspect of the questioning at this time.
Chair observes that the witness has now been under examination for approximately 3.5 hours. This would probably be an appropriate place for the committee to take a recess for approximately an hour. It will be the intention of the chair to recess our hearing until 1:30 this afternoon. And we will once again ask that everyone remain in their seats until our witness has left the room, after which we will then officially recess for 1 hour. Witness is at this time excused.